I first opened my Etsy shop way back in 2017 in what I now know were its golden days. Things were a lot easier back then, and I had no idea at the time what algorithm meant. All I had to do was upload a handful of listings and the orders and the views came rolling in. After then closing my shop for a fairly long period of time, I reopened it again and I quickly realised that those golden days were long gone. I wanted to share with you my journey and experiences on Etsy from the viewpoint of a traditional artist, and by that I mean hand painted rather than digital artworks. I'll also talk about if I would recommend selling on the platform and what my plans are moving forwards. And my camera keeps going out of focus because of this painting behind me. It keeps focusing in on the cat's face. So hopefully if I lock, everything's going to be okay. So I first want to start off just by saying that I am by no means an Etsy expert. There's hundreds of thousands of videos on YouTube about how to grow your Etsy shop. This is just going to be purely my experiences and how my shop has performed on the platform. So let's first of all take a little trip down memory lane and go back to 2017 when I first opened my shop. I was at home looking after my newborn and I just wanted a little something on the side to do. So I opened my shop in late 2017, but I'd say 2018 was when I started to get a lot of views and orders, and that was the first full year that I have the data for. I uploaded maybe 5 or 6 listings of some pet portraits that I'd done for friends and family, and I didn't really put any more effort in than that. I had no idea what SEO was at the time. I obviously put my titles and descriptions in, but I didn't really know about keywords either. It was kind of just set up as more of a hobby rather than thinking of it from a business mindset. That being said, in the first year that I was on Etsy, so in 2017, I got 10 orders for pet portraits, and I wasn't charging sky high prices back then, so that was a total of £1,476, which is about 1,897 USD. And I remember being so happy at the time for the minimal amount of effort that I put in. I was just so happy that I'd managed to receive 10 orders. That's almost one a month. So yeah, it kept me busy as a little side hustle to earn a little bit of extra money and just as something that I love to do as well. I had a total that year of 2,668 views. And yeah, I just remember being over the moon about that. Fast forward to the following year, 2019, and I had my second child, so my Etsy shop took a backseat from then on basically. I had an 18-month-old toddler and a newborn to look after. So yeah, and I remember receiving requests from people emailing me to ask me if I could do them a portrait, and I just had no motivation and it didn't excite me. So I knew at that point to close my shop and just take a little break for a while and focus on my family. And then fast forward all the way from 2019 to 2023, and I reopened it again, and in December 2023, which was last year, I took things a bit more seriously. I was just at a point where I had a bit more time on my hands. We moved from Dubai back to the UK. We lived in Dubai for 8 years, and yeah, we moved into our new home. My kids started school, and yeah, I knew at that point it was just time to take things a little bit more seriously and start putting a bit more effort in. I definitely had to, because things had changed, and if you've got any experience of selling on Etsy, you will probably know this as well. Etsy has a lot of positives going for it, which is why so many sellers are on the platform. One of its best features is that it is a marketplace, so it has a search function. You can type in a keyword that you're looking for, and then it brings up loads of different items which you can browse through. This is a huge advantage compared to platforms like Spotify, where you have to drive traffic yourself by linking to your products. And also, if you're just starting out, I would definitely recommend having an Etsy shop, because you don't have to pay anything to set one up. And also, when you put the listings on, they are relatively inexpensive. They work out about 16p, which I think is about 20 cents. These last for around 4 months, so it's definitely a great way to get your products out there. You definitely do have to put the work in now to get your product seen. There is a lot of competition on the platform, and something that I'm working on now is growing my Etsy shop in a sustainable way. A big change for me since reopening my shop has been to make more affordable items from my artworks. I realised that not everyone can commission a custom pet portrait, so I wanted to find a way to make my art more accessible to a wider audience. I'm not fixated on trends or how much money I can make. I found my niche and I just want to focus on creating products that I feel my target audience would love in a sustainable way that I enjoy. And if this is how you see your relationship with Etsy, then I hope some of the following tips that I've put in place will help you if you're either opening an Etsy shop or with its ongoing maintenance. I know that listing quality is so important in order to get ranked high. If you're right down the bottom, then no one's going to see your products and you're not going to make any sales. Possibly the most important thing is your product photographs. I'm still learning a lot, and I would definitely say that my photos are far from perfect. But I've done a few things over the years to improve my product photography. I'm purely talking now from my personal experience of photographing artworks, greeting cards, and bookmarks. So my first tip is to photograph paintings in natural light. You don't want any direct artificial lights shining onto your painting and reflecting off the surface. I found the best place to photograph my artworks are either by an open window on an overcast day or even outside. I find my iPhone works perfectly fine. I've got a fairly good camera on there, as a lot of people with iPhones or other smartphones will have. So don't invest in any fancy cameras to begin with, because your phone will probably work just fine. And if you did want to get more advanced with your product photography, there are so many good tutorials on YouTube. Next, moving on to photographing my greeting cards. So I actually purchased a mock-up on Etsy. It was only a few pounds and it was in line with my brand. So I had some eucalyptus leaves on the side, and I just find this works really well as my thumbnail for my greeting cards. A lot of people are of the opinion that mock-ups can look a bit boring. I feel like it creates just a nice standardized aesthetic. So I use that mock-up as my thumbnail, and I just take the file that I use to print the greeting cards and pop it into the mock-up. So I don't even need to photograph anything for this photo. I also like to stick to a standard photo setup. So after the thumbnail, I will use a photo of me holding up the card, and then one of the inside of the card and the reverse. And the photos of the inside and the reverse are always the same, so I can just reuse the same photos for every single greeting card listing. Occasionally I will use AI apps to generate backgrounds for my paintings. This can be a really fun way of experimenting with different types of background, but normally I opt for something basic with nice soft lighting to just enhance the painting. I recommend an app called Photo Room. You get a free 7-day trial, so I put all of my paintings into a similar background template on the app. Just before the trial finished, I cancelled my subscription. My next tip is, if you offer variations, then don't go overboard on the number that you offer. This can lead to choice paralysis and potentially put people off buying your product altogether. For my custom paintings, I offer 5 or 6 of the most popular canvas sizes, but then I also put a little NB to say that people can order custom sizes smaller or larger if they wish. I also keep my frame options simple. I offer one style of frame, which is a float frame, in only 3 colours, black, white or natural. This not only makes things simpler for my potential clients, but it also means that I don't have to have as much stock in my studio. For my bookmarks, I only offer 4 tassel colours. I had to choose from hundreds of different colours, but I narrowed it down to the 4 that I thought would complement my paintings the best, and this just really helps out indecisive buyers and streamlines the whole process. Make sure you filled out all the sections in your Etsy shop, like the About Me section and your FAQs, and also make sure that you've got a high resolution banner and that your shop announcement is up to date. If you go into your Etsy shop and basically just work your way through all the sections and make sure everything is filled out, Etsy likes to see that you've got all your information completed, and this will help your shop rank higher in the search results. I've also heard that making little tweaks to your shop frequently is a good thing for the algorithm. This means that they can see that you're an active seller and you've not just left things stagnant for too long. I try to make sure that I am communicating with my buyers when possible. Obviously, you don't want to go overboard, but I make sure that they receive an automated email when I've shipped their item, and also one as a follow-up to ask them for a review as well. You want to try and encourage them to review your products. I think I have around 19 5-star reviews on my shop, and these again can really help your shop to rank higher. If there are any delays in their product reaching them, then just make sure you send them a message to let them know. People love transparency and they like to feel like they're getting a great customer experience from you. This brings me nicely onto my next point, is looking for more opportunities to connect with your customers. When I send out my greeting cards and my bookmarks, I include some extras in the envelope. I'll just show you. Ooh, I just had to go and dig these out because I've just finished a craft fair and I packed them all away in my boxes. This is what I include with my greeting cards and my bookmarks. A thank you note, and on there I will personalise it by writing their name, and it just asks them to leave a review if they're happy, and includes some details about where else they can find me. To include one of these flyers, and this has my price list on and details of how they can order a custom pet portrait, because they might not necessarily know that I also offer these, so it's just seeking another opportunity to let people know. And I don't actually do this at the moment, I possibly will in the future, but a lot of people put a discount code into their packaging, so you can receive 10% off your next order by using this code, and that's just a really nice way to get repeat customers. Moving on to some of the downsides of Etsy, and I don't want it to be all doom and gloom. I think Etsy has some really positive points, but one of the biggest drawbacks for me, and why I'm not pushing my pet portraits as much on Etsy, is the commission that they take off. Now obviously setting up your shop is free and the listings are very inexpensive, so Etsy have to make their money somehow. But when I'm able to promote people ordering pet portraits through my website instead of Etsy, I will do, because if they do order direct from me, I don't pay any fees at all. I think Etsy currently takes around 11% for various fees. So when I'm selling, say, a framed custom pet portrait for £200, 11% is a fairly big chunk. And a quick side note on website, I have set one up on Squarespace. I did it all myself. It's really user friendly. If you don't have one, I would highly recommend it. There's so many others to choose from as well. And if you did want to sell your products on your website, you do have to pay an additional fee on top of your website fee. Obviously you can check all this out when you set your website up, or if you already have a website, just check out the e-commerce section. I think I paid around £200 a year for my Squarespace website, and I set this up last year. I was selling my greeting cards and my bookmarks through my website, but at the time I saw it as an additional cost. This year I actually cancelled my e-commerce on my website, and I'm just selling my more affordable products like my greeting cards and my bookmarks through Etsy. Digital art is now becoming huge, and when I set up my shop back in 2017, it was nowhere near as big as it was now. Normally this kind of art has a quicker turnaround time, and normally, I know it's not always the case, shipping costs will be lower. A lot of shops just send a digital file direct to buyers, so there's nothing to ship at all. And this makes the products a lot cheaper than what I'm able to offer. Each portrait takes around 10 hours for me to finish. It's all handmade and I have to ship them out as well. So yeah, my turnaround times are fairly high. It can take anything from 3 to 4 weeks for me to finish a portrait and ship it out. And when I do my market research on Etsy and I maybe type into the search bar pet portraits, normally the first few pages are filled with these digital pet portraits. So yeah, I'm finding it a lot harder to be seen and compete with these kind of products. Smaller handmade businesses are finding it difficult to compete with the bigger businesses on the platform. They often have teams working in them and can offer cheaper products and faster turnaround times. And from what I've heard, Etsy does favour shops with quicker turnaround times, shops that can send out items within a couple of days of orders being received. Instead, it takes me 3 to 4 weeks to ship out a painting. If it's during the holiday season around Christmas, it can take even longer. So if the algorithm is favouring shops with quick turnaround times, that could have an impact on my listings. I've also heard that there has been a new algorithm update recently, and Etsy hardly ever updates its algorithm, but the recent changes mean that it's going to favour shops with lower shipping costs. So this is potentially going to have an impact on shops that sell heavier products, also shops that ship products out of their home country. So if you can, try and include these costs within your product to keep your shipping costs low, or maybe even consider just offering free shipping. So now I wanted to talk about my results that I've seen since focusing on my shop in December 2023 up until this point. So I've just logged into my stats in my Etsy shop, and I was going to run through a few numbers with you. So I've had, in that 9-month period, 1,951 visits, and this has resulted in 56 orders, which is a conversion rate of 2.9%, which I'm really, really happy with. I believe anything over a 1% conversion rate is good, and that basically means from the number of people that have seen your product, the number that click on it and place an order is your conversion rate. And this has amounted to a revenue of £540.82p. And apparently this revenue has increased 186% compared to the same period last year. So I thought it would also be helpful to run through the listings that have performed the best in that period. So this is purely talking about the last 9 months. And my bestseller was my Chihuahua dog greeting card. It's had 164 views, 22 favourites and 13 orders, which has amounted to a revenue of £38.40. My next bestseller was my Labradoodle card with the plain white background. This has had 148 views, 3 favourites, 9 orders with a revenue of £27. And then it was my Boston Terrier card, 132 views, 4 favourites, 16 orders and £47.70. I'm not quite sure why that one's not at the top, because that's had the highest revenue. My Ginger Cat card did fairly well. That had 17 views, 5 favourites and 6 orders, amounting to £18.17. And then some of my products didn't sell at all, but some of the ones that sold but fairly low amounts of revenue were my Basset Hound card. I only introduced that last month, but it's had 60 views, 7 favourites, 4 orders with a revenue of £11.90. And I've only sold 2 of my bookmarks for £5.75. Moving on to my custom pet portraits. So from my listing of my cat painting, I got 1 order, and that amounted to a revenue of £150. I actually had 16 views on that listing. And I also had a custom order through Etsy. This meant that someone didn't purchase from a listing. They actually messaged me through Etsy asking if I could do them a custom pet portrait, and I created them a custom listing. And this is another tip. I would definitely recommend turning on the option for people to make custom requests. From this, I made £205. So yeah, the total of that adds up to the £540.82, which is not a huge amount, especially not over 9 months, and for some people that would be literally nothing. But considering that 56 of my orders came in the last 9 months, and I've only had 77 since 2017, I think that trend is going in the right direction. If I move on to some more stats in the section about how shoppers found you, Etsy brought in 45% of my visits and I brought in 55% of my visits. So 517 came directly from the Etsy app and other Etsy pages. 78 came from the Etsy search and 277 came from Etsy marketing and SEO. So that was Etsy side of things. Then on my side of things, I brought in 793 views from direct traffic, 30 from social media and 256 from my Etsy ads that I've switched on. A little bit about Etsy ads. I've turned these off now because I was finding that for some periods my Etsy ads were actually costing more than what I was making. So I was paying Etsy rather than Etsy paying me, and I was still selling products. So I've decided to switch these off, but when I did have them on, I definitely noticed a difference pretty much straight away. I went for the $1 a day option, and you only pay the dollar if someone clicks on one of your adverts. But for me, that was pretty much every day. So yeah, I was paying $1 every day, which does add up over time. In this 9-month period, I had 12 5-star reviews, 4 repeat buyers. I reached 44 cities, had 33 shop follows, and 76 of my items were favorited. I've also set up 3 automatic offers that Etsy sends to people. This is part of their email marketing campaign, and I've heard that if you set these up, it can actually improve your shop quality and rank you a bit higher. So I've set all 3 of mine up. I've just run through the stats on these. So my first targeted offer is for favorited items, and this is where someone will favorite your item but not buy it. So Etsy will send them an automated email giving them a percentage off of that item, and you can set this to whatever you like. I've set this to 5%, and Etsy has sent 17 emails. This is again for the last 9 months. So Etsy has sent 17 emails in that 9 months, but no one has taken up this offer. The second targeted offer is abandoned cart, and this is where someone adds one of your products to their cart but they don't check out. So Etsy will automatically send them an offer. This expires after 60 days, and again you can set the percentage. I've set mine to 10% off. Etsy has sent 12 emails in the last 9 months, and 3 people have actually used this offer, and it's generated a revenue of £8.32. This has only been on my greeting cards. And the third offer is a thank you offer. So this is sent to customers after their order has shipped to thank them for their business. And again, you can set your amount. Mine is 10% off. I only set this yesterday after watching a video about how to improve your Etsy SEO, and they said to turn this on. So I decided to set it up yesterday, and it again is for 10% off. No one's used the offer yet. I don't have any data. I hope those stats helped in some way. They're all fairly low, but as I said earlier, I'm growing it sustainably, slowly, in a way that I'm comfortable with and in a way that I love doing. I found my niche, and I just want to make products that are really great quality and that appeal to my target audience. So my plans moving forward, I only have 32 listings on my shop, and I want to create lots more affordable items for people. So more greeting cards and seasonal greeting cards are something that I'm going to start working on straight away. I want to make some Christmas cards, and bearing in mind that we're already nearly in October, I definitely need to pull my finger out. They're either going to be ready for this year or potentially next year. I want to create bundles, so maybe 6 or 8 different designs, and then people can purchase a whole bundle. I think this is a really great idea for greeting cards, and also it helps your bottom line. Rather than just shipping out 1 card and paying for that postage, if you ship out 8 cards, you're still getting the money for all 8, but you're only paying 1 shipping cost. I also want to improve my product photography. I don't think it's too bad, but I definitely feel it could be better. I watched an Etsy video about how to improve your listing photography, and it had tips on there to take 5 different types of photo. Things like how you make the product, can you photograph that? How it looks in use, so can I photograph my paintings actually on a wall or a greeting card, maybe on a mantelpiece? Also things like how it's packaged and what you include in the packaging. This again is really important. People love to receive gifts that look nice, and it's all about that whole customer experience. And I also just keep chipping away at trying to improve my visibility and rank on the platform. It's not something I'm going to invest loads and loads of time into. It's just a small part of my overall business strategy, but one that I don't want to close down anytime soon. Eventually in the future, I will transition everything onto my website, but I don't really feel like I have the momentum or the following yet to be able to do this. And that's why Etsy is so great. It's its own search marketplace. So if you are just starting out, then it's very low cost. I would highly recommend it. And it's just a way to get your products out there and give you a bit of experience in creating and selling. So if you have any experience of using other handmade platforms, please let me know, and yeah, just let me know if there's any other alternatives out there that you've had success with. Thank you so much for watching this video, and if you were interested in how I make my more affordable items for Etsy, then I will link a video here about how I make my products from my art.